Pasadena, 1962, a 38-year-old man walks down the street. He is divorced. He is broke. He has just buried his 9-year-old son, who died of leukemia because he couldn't afford the best doctors. He is crying. That man was Charlie Munger. We know him as a billionaire, but his story didn't start with billions. It started in hell. If you feel like you are drowning in 2026, you don't need a stock tip. You need a reconstruction plan. We are going to simulate exactly how a young Munger would rebuild his life today, starting from zero, month by month. Meet our protagonist. Let's call him the architect. It is the 1st of January, 2026. His net worth is negative. He is standing in the driveway, looking at a glossy, mid-sized SUV. It costs him $650 a month. He loves this car. It signals to his neighbors that he is doing okay. But Munger's rule of inversion asks, how do I guarantee I stay poor? The answer is simple. Keep paying for status you haven't earned. The architect makes the first painful move. He doesn't look for a better job yet. He looks at what he owes. He drives the SUV to the dealership and sells it. He takes a loss. He buys a 15-year-old sedan for cash. Next, he opens his phone. Netflix, Spotify, the premium gym membership, delete, delete, delete. He feels a sharp pang of loss. Your brain screams. It feels like you are losing everything. But look at the math. He just freed up $900 of monthly cash flow. He didn't make more money. He just stopped setting it on fire. Most people try to out-earn their stupidity. The architect knows that is impossible. By the end of January, his lifestyle looks worse to the outside world. He looks poor, but for the first time in 3 years, his checking account balance at the end of the month is higher than it was at the start. He has stopped the bleeding. This is the prerequisite for everything that follows. February and March. The architect is now generating a surplus, but the math is unforgiving. It is simply too small. He needs speed. The standard cultural advice here is to work smarter, not harder. This is a dangerous lie when you are starting from zero. Leverage requires a fulcrum, a pivot point. If you have no money and no specialized skills, you have no pivot point. You cannot multiply zero. You must trade the only raw asset you possess, your time. The architect enters the grind phase. This is not about passion, it is about physics. He finishes his 9 to -5, eats a cold sandwich in his car, and immediately starts a second shift. Maybe it's driving Uber, maybe it's freelance data entry, maybe it's physical labor. The specific activity is irrelevant. What matters is the brute force transfer of energy into equity. It is unglamorous. He is tired, his eyes are red. But watch the bank account. That modest $900 surplus from January is now being fueled by an extra $1,500 a month from the side work. Crucially, he avoids the trap of trying to be clever too soon. He is not buying stocks. He is not gambling on crypto. He is buying sleep insurance. By the end of March, he stares at his banking app. $5,000. It sits there. It is the first time he has seen 4 digits that belong to him rather than the credit card company. This money is not for spending. It is the seed. Charlie Munger famously noted that the first $100,000 is a bitch, but you have to do it. The architect is exhausted, but his psychology is shifting. He is no longer desperate. He is tired, but he is safe. He has purchased the distinct luxury of being able to say no to immediate disaster. April arrives, and with it, the noise. The markets are moving. Nvidia is up. Bitcoin is rallying. At the bar, the architect's friends aren't talking about savings rates. They are talking about 10 times returns and moonshots. He sits on a pile of cash, $7,000 generated from the grind, and the itch starts. It is a physical sensation. The logic of the casino whispers to him, if I put this into the market right now, I could double it by Christmas. It feels like he is losing money simply by standing still. This is the liquidity trap. It is the precise moment where 90% of people fail, not because they picked the wrong stock, but because they picked the wrong time. They try to be investors before they are solvent. Consider the mechanics of this mistake through the lens of inversion. Instead of asking how to get rich, ask how to go broke. The easiest way to go broke is to tie up all your cash in volatile assets just before an emergency strikes. If the architect throws his cash into the market today, he loses access to it. If his car breaks down next week or a medical bill arrives, he cannot pay with shares of a tech company. He will have to sell those assets to generate cash. And the market, being cruel, often dips exactly when you need the money most. He becomes a forced seller. Charlie Munger constantly warned against the danger of interruption. The first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily. But you cannot uphold that rule if you have no buffer against reality. You want the miracle of exponential growth, but you cannot compound if you are constantly interrupted by emergencies. A forced sale resets the clock. It destroys the momentum. So the architect chooses to do something incredibly boring. He does something that looks objectively stupid to his friends who are chasing the latest ticker symbol. He resists the urge to gamble. Instead, he takes his $7,000, adds the hard-won earnings from the grind in May and June, and moves a total of $15,000 into a high-yield savings account. He names this account the Great Wall. It is crucial to understand that this is not an investment. It is a fortress. It earns a guaranteed 4%, which seems pathetic compared to the theoretical gains of the stock market. But you do not judge a fortress by its yield. You judge it by its strength. Its purpose is not return on investment, it is return on sleep. The architect walks past the stock market casino, ignoring the flashing lights and the stories of overnight millionaires. He keeps his cash cold, liquid, and dead. He is building a shield. By locking away this cash, he changes his relationship with the future. Now, if he loses his job, he does not panic, he survives for 4 months. If the car dies, he does not go into debt. He simply writes a check. He has systematically removed the power of bad luck to ruin him. He has purchased his freedom from anxiety. And that is the only foundation upon which real wealth can eventually be built. July and August arrive. The architect has built his wall. He finally has safety, but safety is not the same thing as freedom. He looks at his income statement. The numbers are positive, but the method is exhausting. He is still grinding 2 jobs just to make the math work. He is trading every waking hour for dollars. This is not sustainable. If he stops running, the machine stops feeding him. He needs leverage. He looks at the $2,000 surplus he generated this month. The standard financial advice tells him to invest it immediately. Put it in the market. They say, let compound interest work. So he runs the numbers. In a good year, an index fund gives you 8%. On $2,000, that is a return of $160 a year. That is $13 a month. That buys him a sandwich. Not a new life. For a wealthy person, 8% on millions is freedom. For a broke person, 8% on pennies is a distraction. It changes absolutely nothing about his reality. Instead, he inverts the problem. He doesn't look for external returns. He looks at the internal machine. He looks at his career. He identifies a specific bottleneck that is capping his hourly rate. He realizes that selling raw labor is a trap because there is a physical limit to how many hours he can sell. He needs to sell skill. He finds the solution. Maybe it is a certification in data analytics. Maybe it is a specialized license for his trade. The price tag is exactly $2,000. The time commitment is heavy, 8 weeks of nights and weekends. He writes the check. His bank account drops. To the untrained eye, he just spent his capital, but he hasn't spent it. He has allocated it to the only asset he can actually control, himself. The next 8 weeks are brutal. We see him study while his friends are out. He is tired, he fails a practice test and doubts the process, but the math keeps him focused. He tries again, he corrects the errors, he passes. In late August, he takes this new certification to the market. He now has proof of competence. His current employer hesitates, so he applies leverage. He applies to a competitor. The market reacts to his new value proposition. He lands a new role because he is no longer a generic laborer. His base salary jumps by $15,000 a year. Let's pause and look at the math because this is where most people miss the point. He spent $2,000 one time. In exchange, he increased his annual cash flow by $15,000. Recurring every single year, that is a 750% return on investment in year 1 alone. If he holds the job for 10 years, the return is effectively infinite. No stock, no crypto token, no real estate deal in the world offers that kind of risk-free return. He has permanently upgraded his earning power. The result, he quits the second job. He deletes the shift work app. He has not just bought money, he has bought back his time. The machine is now working for him. September arrives. Life is going almost too well. But as we know, order naturally falls apart. Things break. The architect walks out to his 15-year-old sedan, turns the key, and hears silence. The transmission is dead. The mechanic, wiping grease on a rag, quotes him exactly $3,200. Now, let's apply the inversion technique. How do you turn a simple car repair into a life-altering tragedy? By having no margin of safety. In his old life, the life of fragility, this moment would have been a catastrophe. It would have meant swiping a credit card at 24% interest. That interest acts as a reverse compounding machine, digging a hole that gets deeper every single day. The financial stress would immediately bleed into his work and relationships, spiraling him back into the sleepless anxiety he fought so hard to escape. It would have forced him to make desperate short-term decisions just to survive. It would have been the end of his progress. But remember, the Great Wall he built in April. That cash was sitting there for this exact moment. The architect feels the sting. It is never fun to lose money, and the loss is real, but he does not panic. His pulse does not race. He simply opens his banking app. He transfers $3,200 from the savings account to checking. He pays the mechanic. He drives home. That is it. There is no drama. A potential crisis was successfully downgraded to a mild inconvenience. This is the functional power of the system he constructed. Because he resisted the urge to gamble on the stock market back in June, the cash was available when reality struck. He didn't have to sell his skills out of desperation. He didn't have to sell assets during a market dip, which would have locked in a permanent loss. He didn't have to borrow from his future to pay for his present. He just paid the inevitable tuition of owning an old car. Charlie Munger teaches us that negative events will happen with 100% certainty. The universe does not care about your plans. The only variable you control is your own fragility when those events strike. Because the architect was prepared, the momentum of his year is not broken. He views the depletion of his savings not as a failure, but as the system working exactly as designed. He refills the account over the next 2 months, treating it like a bill he owes himself. He is back on track. He learned that liquidity is not dead money earning zero return. It is the essential shock absorber that prevents a pothole from wrecking the entire journey. November, the wall is rebuilt, the salary is higher, the debt is gone. The architect now possesses what we call true surplus. This is a critical distinction. This is not rent money masquerading as investment capital. This is cash he will not need to touch for at least 10 years. Most people enter the market out of desperation, hoping for a quick fix to their fragility. He enters from a position of absolute strength. Now, and only now, does he look at the stock market. He is not looking for a lottery ticket or the next speculative trend. He is looking to own a piece of global productivity. By purchasing a low-cost total market index fund, he effectively inverts the problem of stock picking. Instead of trying to find the needle, he simply buys the haystack. He sets up an automatic transfer. Every time he gets paid, $1,000 moves silently into his account. This automation is deliberate. It removes his own psychology from the equation. He doesn't try to time the bottom. He doesn't read the financial news, which is mostly noise designed to trigger emotional errors. He aligns his incentives with the long-term compounding of the global economy. He clicks confirm. He owns shares with that single action. The nature of his existence changes. He is no longer just a laborer trading finite hours for dollars. He is an owner, capturing value regardless of his physical presence. It is a small stake initially, but the psychological shift is massive. He has moved from the passenger seat to the driver's seat. He realizes that the last 10 months weren't about getting rich quick. They were about becoming the kind of person whose psyche can get rich. He has discipline, he has skills, he has liquidity. When market volatility inevitably strikes, it doesn't scare him because he doesn't need the money today. By removing the necessity of selling at the wrong time, he has won the game before the game even started. The 31st of December, 2026. The architect sits at his kitchen table. It is the same physical table where he sat in January, terrified and broke, but the person sitting there is fundamentally different. He opens his laptop, he checks the scorecard. It isn't $1 million. It is roughly $25,000. To the internet guru's selling status and speed, this is failure. But the architect looks closer. He sees a notification, dividend payment, $12.4. It is a tiny amount. It is barely enough for a sandwich. But he stares at it and smiles. It is not enough for a Lambo, but it is enough to know you'll never be a slave again. Why? Because that $12.4 is the first money he has ever made without trading his time. It represents a shift in physics. It is money making money. It is the proof of concept. He has successfully inverted the trap. He didn't try to be brilliant. He simply stopped being stupid. He stripped his life down. He ground through the labor. He built a fortress of cash to absorb shocks. And he upgraded his mind. He didn't just save money, he bought his freedom. He is not rich yet, but he is unkillable. He is on the path. And as Charlie Munger famously noted, the first $100,000 is a bitch, but you gotta do it. I don't care what you have to do. If it means walking everywhere and not eating anything that wasn't purchased with a coupon, find a way to get your hands on $100,000. After that, you can ease off the gas. The architect closes his laptop. He is ready for 2027. The question is, are you, if you want the spreadsheet the architect used to calculate his wall and his skill ROI? I have linked a template below. It is free. Use it to build your own fortress. And if this simulation helped you see clearly, subscribe for the next mental model.